Hello, Kerbal, and welcome back to Mining the Man and More, Part 17. Getting back into space. Okay, I've been gone for, was it a week or two? Well, I've got an excuse. I've got a good excuse, actually. Been doing DIY around the house, or in the back garden more specifically, and work has been a lot more busy. However, work is quieting down a bit, so there won't be no more overtime. However, I still got chores to do around the house and in the back garden, so if things are slow, then sorry. Okay, what I'm doing by here anyway, we're starting with the ore muncher, and we have to get this mining base into orbit. You can see I'm trying to fiddle with this maneuver node to try to get it to line up with the rover we had landed on the Mun, which we're going to replace with our old mining base. No, we're going to replace with our old mining base. We're going to replace our old mining base with this place. There we go. Got it out in one. Anyway, so I decided, handy tip, if you want to alter your maneuver, alter your inclination or anything like that, do it as far away from the planet as you can. That way you save a lot more fuel, it takes a lot less thrust, and you have a lot more reserve for landing, especially if you're going to land, because you need as much fuel as possible, just in case, this is overfueled in fact. But we'll get into that when we come to land it, and we're going to do that in this episode. Don't worry, I have not forgotten about the asteroid base, which we'll be getting to soon. However, I'm going to talk through some video ideas as well while setting this up. Yep, add a maneuver view and circularize it. Well, one video idea I had, and one video idea I am planning on doing. Well, one video idea was to create a probe, and this mission will be run by you guys and me. And what we'll do is do it in real time. So, it won't be a video every week, it'll be a video probs every month. Okay, now we've switched over to our scanning probe. And this is going to be scanning for anomalies, mainly anomalies, so we can use them as side missions, are on the Mun. So that's why this is set up. And this is ScanSat. But I'll talk about that in a moment. The other idea was I'm going to play Minecraft. I've been invited by a friend onto a server. Thank you. The first one I've been invited to, in fact. And it's a private server, so don't ask if you can join. But anyway, I asked them if I could record on that server, and he said yes, there's no problem with that. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be doing. That's an extra one. That'll be a real-time recording. This won't be not like this, talking over a video I've already done. So it'll be sort of like live. I'm not sure what I'm going to do on it. I'm not sure what I'm going to build. But I feel like first thing I have to do is go on adventuring, earn my things like the diamonds, all that. Get that before I get into the building start of it. The other idea, as I said, was building a probe and sending it to another planet of your guys' choosing. We'll perhaps do a pool and we'll say, we'll go to Jewel. Jewel is my favourite idea because it's got multiple moons. You can do multiple sciences, don't they? But the idea is that we'd set up the mission. We'd have to do real science then. So we may have to install other mods, camera mods and other things. We can say, oh, this geological feature looks like this and could have been caused by this. It has to be real science though. We could use the ScanSat for finding geological features of some kind. Anomalies won't matter too much because they're sort of anomalies in the game. They're not real science things, are they? They're not going to tell us much about the moons and whatnots. So yes, I'm excited about that, and it's something we can do together, and it will be over like 3 months or something like that. We'll set a time scale, so we'll only fast forward time to keep it within that time, and I could do a monthly or a weekly update on that or something around those lines. We may do it over 6 months, so it gives us a lot of time, and it makes it feel like a real mission, as if it really happened. Anyway, this is ScanSat, and we've got it now in orbit around the Mun. This was suggested to me by just if I can say his name right, Tsuran. He's a German YouTuber, so if you speak German, he's worth a look at. I don't think he's got KSP videos, but he's done Witcher videos and playthroughs. He's also done things with Minecraft before as well. So he may be something, if you enjoy him, you enjoy him. So have a take a look. Anyway, you can see by here I'm trying to fiddle with the tools on the ScanSat. You can set it in different map views. This is north and south poles, even mapping. At the moment, I've got resources switched on, so once I figure that out and I switch resources off, hopefully we can enjoy the actual scanning of the man. Because at the moment we've got radar altimeter on this space probe, on this scanning probe. We've also got to scan everything, which will give us an insight into what... Here we go, I did it. I've set it to switch the resources off because we've already done the resources scan. So bring it to a rectangular map, we can see exactly where we scanned. Now this will take time. I've got the scan everything one scanner on there, and that'll look for anomalies, and we can use the anomalies as sort of like a side mission, because at the moment our main mission is to create an asteroid base while trying to get our man mining base up and operational again. So we will leave this orbiting the man, scanning for all those essential things like height and terrain, also for those anomalies which we can go and explore and have an adventure. But that's not all we gotta do. First off, we got one adventure to do before that one, and that is to line the orbit up of this asteroid. If you watched the previous episode, 16, you know that we've got an asteroid on its way. I think it's Class D, or was it Class C? I think it was a Class D. So like smaller than a Class E, but bigger than a Class C. Yeah. Anyway, it's going to be sort of not the largest, but it's a large asteroid. And we have to line the orbit up. Right, if the orbit is at an angle, you've got 2 points of the orbit, as you just saw me line it up. Once you've lined up the orbit of the asteroid, line the launch pad with that orbit and then blast off, and make sure you go and point in the right direction. I think I did talk about this in my asteroid capture tutorial, so I'll leave you go and do that, find that yourself. Okay, it looks like I've launched a little too late for this one. Not to matter, I'm sure we can get on with it. So this is the multi-pusher engine. For any of you who don't know, who've started watching this, you can see the 4 engines on the top, around the top of the rocket there. Now they'll attach to different points in the asteroid. We'll center them on the center of mass of the asteroid, and that'll cause giving us a push to push the asteroid into the orbit. It doesn't need much of a push either, because it's nearly in a circular orbit. It's only just got enough speed to escape Kerbal's orbit, so we don't have to push it much. However, just in case, I'm going to be launching at least 2 of these asteroid pusher engines. Now I'm doing a mistake by here. I don't realize it at this moment in time, so I'll get into that. I'll let you guess what I'm doing wrong here. It's something to do with the navel. I mistakenly, and I'll leave it at that until we get to the problem. Okay, so what are we talking about while we're launching? Well, I could talk a bit about dev notes. Now, those of you who do not watch An Engineer Just Talking, which is just an episode for me to try and get used to talking like this, get used to me talking without making noises like slapping my lap. I think I worked out, yes, I was pointing the wrong direction. Right, and a bit of note before we get into the dev notes. With the nav ball, north and south are reversed. East and west are not reversed. So a thing to note when using the nav ball, I didn't realise that, it's the way it's set up. It's set up for, say, like a plane, I suppose. Is that right? I think so. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, I'll let you work that out. Back to dev notes. Version 1.0.5 is in final QA testing. Yes! That means we get the shuttle engine And if I did try to create my own shuttle, and the only problem with a shuttle in this game is the gimbling of the engines aren't large enough. Now hopefully the gimbling of this engine will be large enough to enable us to recreate faithfully the space shuttle, or at least the best we can with the physics of this game. Because we got the asteroid parts and we're in space. So we've got the shuttle parts, which will help us create the shuttle and hopefully give us enough gimbling in that engine. That will make us faithfully recreate it. We've got the tanks that we can use to simulate the main tank. But all in all, that's what I'm looking forward to in 1.0.5. There are contextual contracts, but I don't play career mode, so there's no matter to me. Okay, however, version 1.1 used to be unplayable, but now they're in a position to test it and carry out, QAs and testing before they finish all the UI. I think it's going to be a bit of time before version 1.1 comes out, but it's something I am really looking forward to in KSP. Okay, we're on our final booster engine, which is going to get us into orbit. However, I think at this point we've figured out that we have not got enough boost to get up into orbit. And the problem was when we were launching at the wrong angle. So changing that angle, trying to get that speed to go into a different direction, changing inclination, in effect, takes a lot of fuel. So so a tip for anyone: launch properly, launch at the correct inclination. As you can see here, I'm using all the engines. It's luckily we're going to launch up another one of these. However, I have a sneaky suspicion that we don't have enough fuel on this. Okay, we're on the last staging, which means we're going to get ourselves into orbit using all the rockets we put on there, which was not meant to be. I think I'll have to re-engineer that. Okay, we're almost in orbit. You can see I'm trying to tweak it. I do the rest of the tweaking off camera, so never mind. What are you going to do? Get a new space operator, a Kerbal Space Center operator, or flight director. But however, we've got something to do, and that's land this blighter. This is what I've called it. I've called it the ore muncher, which is exactly apt what it's going to do. It is going to collect once the ore is collected by the rovers, we're going to pipe the ore to that. And then we're going to, munch it and turn it into that lovely fuel that we're looking forward to. Now that's silly docking from the top up, so it's just piping it. I've used a mod called Kerbal Attachment System in junction with Kerbal Inventory System, which means a Kerbal can attach hose from the little miner rovers to the ore muncher, and also I'll have to land some tanks down as well. And then we can have a little base which is piped together. Okay, now we're on our landing engine, or at least the booster engine, which is going to get us to land. We're going to get rid of that, and you can see we've got 4 engines then on the ore muncher, which will get us to land properly. So as we're coming down, don't forget when you're landing, point prograde is sometimes best to orientate the nav ball as I just did there, so it's easier to control, so you know which up and down is, it makes it easier to orientate your craft towards the retrograde marker. Let's talk a bit about that probe idea again. So if you guys have any ideas what mods we could use for collecting proper science, that would be awesome, because we could include that within our idea. I may do a video that sort of like a pitching the idea, because in the scientific world you'd have to go and you have to say, well, this mission would be excellent to do, go to here, we can do this science, do this. And then they go back and forth between other people's ideas and say, no, this idea looks better, no, this one's better. Which one should we do? And which one will be the cheapest? So yes, we'll have to add your budget to that as well. Okay, you saw me there. I was boosting up because we were going to land in that crater. And in fact, I think I do it again. Yep. We're going straight down by here, or almost straight down, which is not what we want. If you have trouble like this, use the map to reorientate your spacecraft so you make sure you get the actual trajectory that you require, as the other parts crash into the surface. Luckily, this has enough thrust-to-weight ratio to enable us, and I think that's why we're killing our orbit too quickly, because normally I have a single engine for landing, and that's my traditional way of making things. I've changed my tactics to using these radial engines, and hope they seem to be working out quite well. In fact, I used them on the rover, which gave me... I used them on the back of the rover to use like a rocket, and I used 4 mini ones to land the rover. If you haven't seen that episode, I can't remember, is it 14, 13, 14, 15, or 16? Watch them all. Yeah. So anyway, we're coming down. Slow deacceleration. Be careful when you're landing. Now, this is on a space probe. You'd think this would be automatic, because the distance between the Earth and Kerbal, even though you might get like half a second delay, that half a second could do a lot of damage, especially with the speeds that you require with a space program. So luckily we're hanging in mid-air close to the spacecraft. It's magic. So as we bring this down slowly, we will succeed in our mission to munch ore. Ooh, cool. That was an unbelievably soft landing. In fact, I don't remember when I landed this. Okay, let's unfurl everything. There are solar panels, and there are thermal radiator panels. And in fact, one of the solar panels has been covered. So I decided to reorientate this so the solar panels will point directly at the sun, because I think that ore muncher takes a lot of power. And just one more task to do before we get on our way. We have to get the ore miner on its way towards the ore muncher. They can mate successfully then, transferring ores and then producing some of those juicy... I don't know where I was going with this, but never mind. Okay, so we got the ore miner over there. Let's activate the parking brake, which is actually the drill, which I found was quite handy. It just pushes the wheels up slightly and acts like a brake. But we can't hang around here. We've got ore multi-pusher engines to put up in orbit, and I've added extra tanks to this for No! What are you doing? What are you doing? Abort! 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 Disaster! Hit the detonate button. It's too late. We've got multiple debris coming down on top of the planet. Everyone in the KRC to the bunker, quickly. Captain, one of the boosters has entered orbit. And look at this, attempt number 2. Okay, I've fixed the decoupling problem, but with been extra boosters on it. But look at this. For some reason, one of the engines stopped firing, and if you'll see there, it seems to be, it's rotating with that engine, the single tank on the top there, as if it's attached to this by some invisible force. I don't know what was happening there, but I had to go back. I had to get rid of that. That was obviously a glitch. I had to reattach the tanks in the VAB. Anyway, I kept those 2 failures. And launch number 3, we successfully get in orbit. Because we're determined. Now, luckily, we don't have a budget, but we still have problems. Yep, I had the fairings fire off when I detached those engines, and one of them have lodged into the engine on the orbit booster. It's shaking about a bit, and this is the problem we had last time. If you remember, in episode 16, I launched this app. One of the fairings was lodged from the top booster engine, from the multi-pusher engines, And it caused something like this. You see, we've got no orbit. The probe's there, hanging in there. The icon. But showing no orbit, which is weird. And that's... oh, that caused a headache. Because I think I've had a failure. I launched it again. And it said, yes, we got it into orbit. But it gave me a message when I tried to end it. The two things. I wasn't in total orbit. I was still in the atmosphere. And plus, we had this shaking, which I don't know what was causing it. I didn't know how to get rid of it. See, the space center but there was in yellow, which means you cannot end by here, basically. And basically, if I did that, it would revert back to launch, and then I'd have to do it all again. However, I suppose I could restage it, but no. I want to get this into orbit. I want to get it into orbit. Not tomorrow, not the next week, but today. Or at least when I recorded this, I wanted to get this into orbit. Luckily, if you notice, there's a stage after this one. Light bulb. This will work. Okay, so with the next episode, I'm going to try to get us to, well, basically get us into, get these multi-pusher engines onto that asteroid. I vow to capture that asteroid in the next episode. But also, I'm going to be trying to do my base building tutorials on the asteroid. So I'm going to leave it here. If you enjoyed this video, click that like button. And subscribe for more videos coming soon to a channel which is right here on YouTube near you. I'm Orbiter. Trust me, I'm an engineer.